Hi, Jeffrey.
Hello.
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 Hi, Emily.
You guys are having a good day?
Yeah, pretty good. How about you?
Good. Yesterday we had a storm, so the internet was on and off all day. So yesterday was a bad day. Today's a good day.
Yeah, well, you're not far from me because you're in Seattle and I'm in Sandpoint, and I had no power yesterday.
Oh yeah? Oh man. So people still have no power.
Gratefully, I do.
Yeah. All right, well, let's open up with a Q&A. Do you guys have any questions for me before I jump into things? Run into any issues?
Yeah, well, of course, I was trying to do some practicing yesterday, but I couldn't get the internet on. So
Yeah.
this morning I tried to use the links that you sent me to sign into WordPress, and I couldn't get in. I'm not sure what I was doing wrong.
Okay. Oh, so let's share your screen and then I will
Yeah.
go through. It's probably that you need to do /team instead of /login. /login is usually your default for WordPress, but I changed that because of hackers.
Okay, you want me to share my screen then and pull up what you sent me?
Yep.
Okay. I'm just gonna get into my email. No, that's not the right one. Okay. Okay, so I need to click that link, right?
Okay, so yeah, it should have worked.
Use that username.
Yep. Okay, let me figure this out.
Should I say get new password?
Let me just reset it on my end.
Okay.
Request remote control.
What's that?
Requesting remote control, you get a pop-up.
Oh, gotcha.
And Johanna, do you have your work email now so I can set you up also?
Yeah, I have it.
Okay.
I think I did. Yeah, I sent it to you on.
Okay, on Skype. I'll go grab that right
Yeah.
now and get you in right now.
All right.
Emily, I just emailed you the password. It'll get to you in a second.
Do you want me to stop sharing? I don't really care.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the password's long and complicated. You'll need to copy it.
You emailed it to me, you said?
Mm-hmm. I'm on a 30-second delay for emails, so should get there in
okay.
a second.
Okay. And the other thing was, I was wanting to go back and review our training that we just did a couple days ago. Can you send me that link, or do I already have it?
It should be on the playlist that I sent to you guys. It should be the newest video on the playlist. So let me just go double check that I actually uploaded it because of the internet.
So are you guys nice and sunny over there now today?
Yes.
Us
Right now
too.
it's sunny. which really makes me want to go outside. But okay, so I'm uploading it now, but it will be on the playlist in a moment.
Okay.
And the social media team one.
What's that?
In the social media team playlist, because I sent you guys 2 of them, one for the social media team and one for the blogging team. So went over Animoto. We didn't finish getting through CoSchedule, right? Or have you guys tried CoSchedule yet?
No,
Okay.
that was my goal yesterday when I had no internet.
Okay. I'll let you guys try that yourselves. It's pretty straightforward. I don't imagine it will be a problem. I wanted to spend today going over a little bit of Pinterest, and maybe if have you guys had a chance to kind of test out what we did or what we talked about on Tuesday on your videos? Okay, great. Then
No.
let's look at at least we can look at Johanna's video then.
Okay.
I think that's going to be our primary thing that we focus on in the beginning, because once, that's just something that I think it will really kind of feed into everything else that we're going to do. So I'm going to share my screen. I'll jump into, Johanna, can you drop your Animoto link into the Skype chat?
Oh, I haven't done, I just went on there and just looked around, but I haven't done anything yet.
Okay, all right. Then we'll do that in the next meeting. Let's just jump into Pinterest. Let's see. Okay. So Pinterest is almost all done through Tailwind. So Tailwind is, did I do any Pinterest with you guys? Just remind me. None? Okay.
No.
So you're going to go to tailwind.com. You're going to log in with Tailwind. I'm going to give you guys the Tailwind login right now. Go ahead and log in and try to follow along if you can, what I'm doing on the screen. You don't have 2 monitors, that might be difficult. So once you're in Tailwind, the first, you pretty much, you'll start at the dashboard, but there's nothing to do there. So you will then go onto this left-hand sidebar and hit Publisher. Publisher is where you schedule your posts. So from here, there should probably be a little button that says ad blocker needs to be turned off. There should be a little button here that says like add CoSchedule as a plugin. If they might have moved it because they've done a redesign recently. Let me see. But you're going to need the extension installed on your Chrome browser. So there should be like this little blue wing that, right there that if you right click on it, it says Tailwind Publisher. I don't know why my computer is lagging. This is what it was doing yesterday. Start over.
Jeffrey, where did you say that you uploaded that link to the training? I can't find it.
to the social media playlist. So
So
if
I
you're
find that on-
if you're in Skype and you're in this, you know, the social media chat, it's
Yep.
it's this one. I think it's this one right here. The first YouTube playlist link.
Oh, okay. So that will be from Tuesday.
That will have all the videos in it. You know, once you're in here, now you just got to find the most recent one.
Oh, gotcha.
Which, let me see if that's finished uploading yet. It's 95% done, so it should
Oh,
it should be
okay.
there in a moment.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, 95%.
Is Tailwind just exclusively used for, oh, it says Pinterest and Instagram.
Yeah, so you know the real issue with Pinterest is that there's an additional step versus other social media platforms that you have to pick a board that you're going to put it into, right? If you're on any other platform, you just make posts and they all go to the same place. They go to your feed. Pinterest has that extra step of having to pick a board. So while Pinterest does work with other programs like Buffer and Hootsuite, you know, when you go to schedule a post, it'll tell you which of the platforms you want to target. When you hit Pinterest, now for every post that you do, you have to take that additional step and tell it which board it's going to go to. So it's not in any way, I mean, it's making part of the process more efficient, but if you're uploading 200 posts, you're still going to have to pick 200 times which board to put it to, which adds up pretty quickly. And a lot of the advantages, you know, they are a result of that, but I'll show you in a moment why the extension is so powerful. So once you're logged into Tailwind, everybody log in just so I know it works. Get the Tailwind extension for Chrome, Tailwind Publisher, and install that. Then what I would do, and this is just my personal preference of, you know, trying to make things a little bit easier myself, I'll go to extensions, which you can get to the settings here. So top right corner, Chrome settings. Once you're in here, click on extensions. It's going to open up your extensions. And what you're going to want to do is keyboard shortcut that extension. So I don't have Tailwind on here, so I'll install it. Then I'll go in here and under Tailwind Publisher, I'm going to do Control T for Tailwind. So anytime I now hit Control T, it's going to start the extension. So now there's a lot of different ways to do this. I'll start with what I do most commonly is I work from Pinterest, because the idea here is that if I want to build visibility within Pinterest, one of the easiest ways to do that is use the Pinterest algorithm, which is already designed in a way to find content that Pinterest thinks is, you know, most interesting to find said content. So I'm going to skip for now. I'll log out of my client's Pinterest account because I don't want to be working on that right now. Log in with a different account. Now I have to go find my login information. Come on. I need to give you guys a Pinterest account login as well. Pinterest.com. And the login.
I actually have been doing Pinterest and Tailwind. So
Okay.
yeah.
So I went over Pinterest with you already?
No, Marley did.
Okay, got it. So, you know, 314,000 monthly viewers, and I have pretty good website on my, you know, pretty good SEO on my website, and I get, I think, less than 10,000 people a month. So perfect example of, and Pinterest is by no means an SEO SEO is not a friendly topic matter to Pinterest. It's not very visual. But the idea here is that you make a board for every keyword you want to target. So, I have YouTube SEO, web design, social media SEO, et cetera, et cetera. And I'll just pick one of these. I normally will pick which one to work on from the analytics. In the beginning, you kind of chart your own course. I will use my keyword research to make the decisions in the beginning, but over time, I'll come here and I'll see my top boards are social media board, graphic design board, 2019 trends, which you can see has nothing to do with SEO or, what I have found using SEO programs, mostly related to what actually people use Pinterest for, which is fashion, interior design, etc. But, the idea here is that you very often will you'll build a strategy around getting content for the keywords that you want to get results for, and then you'll branch out from there. Because in a lot of cases, what you're interested in may not necessarily be popular on Pinterest. So to get traffic in, to get traffic from outside sources is a good idea if you're in that kind of situation. So let's say social media SEO. Now I'm just going to take that keyword and search for it in Pinterest. So you can see they'll give you a bunch of additional ideas that you can target. So I'm just going to Google that, or not Google that, Pinterest that, and a bunch of things pop up. Now I can hit just Control T, and Tailwind is going to create a post from every single image that's on the page that I'm on. And this is really the power of Tailwind. It's Tailwind, click of a button. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. In fact, I'm not going to use that one because it's got terrible text. So 14, not English, 15. I really don't want to do the work of customizing the text. So, when it just says social media SEO, I'm not going to share that, not going to use it. If at some point, maybe in the future, once I've exhausted other easier ideas, I might come back and do ones like that and go in there and change the text myself. But in the purpose of really showing you the power of why this works so well is the ability to just crank these out. You try to, I'm adding how many now? So I'll just stay there, 18 posts in less than a minute. So that's really the primary power of Pinterest, is just how Tailwind works that way. So now I can pick which board to send it to, which is going to be social media SEO. And this green check there means that I've never shared that before. If there's either a blue icon with an I in it, it means that you've shared it before, but not recently. There's a red X, it means you've shared it recently. So as long as you got these green checks here, means that you're pretty much good to go. And there's no real harm in posting things twice. But the algorithm, obviously, like all algorithms, they prefer some sort of freshness. If you post something 20 times, each time you repost it, it's going to be slightly less visible than the previous time minus engagement. Just send that there. So I'll hit schedule all. And just like that, I've got 18 posts. So the idea is to kind of do that. What you're doing is you're piggybacking on other people's content and the success that they found on that content. And when you've clicked that, it'll give you some other suggestions. Now, these suggestions work better in certain industries than others. These are actually not so bad because social media is actually a subject matter that obviously is popular on Pinterest, regardless of the fact that it's not very visual. And if you hover over these numbers here, it'll tell you which platform they're popular for. Probably doesn't matter. This one talks about content marketing, not necessarily social media. This one talks about email marketing. I might add this one. And on-page SEO, again, it's not talking about social media necessarily, but you can also always change these. So I could go SEO. And I don't have one for on-page SEO. So this is a good example of if I don't have a board for it, just go back and create one. On-page SEO is definitely something that we could talk about. So I'm going to go back here. There's saved. Saved is, this used to be called boards. Now it's called saved. I don't know why they changed it, but this is where you can see your boards. So now if you press the plus over here on the right-hand side, go board and go on page SEO. Create. Now if I bring that other window back up, I can type on page like that, and it's going to recognize that their board, you know, that none of my existing boards had that keyword in there. Since I added that board after I opened this window, I have to refresh the boards list. So now on page SEO. So now add to queue. 10 inbound marketing myths. Inbound marketing, it's not really a term I like. So now, and you can refresh suggestions. Each time you refresh becomes a little bit less effective. So if I picked one thing on the previous page, I might refresh it a second time. But you can see that almost all these, none of them have anything to do with social media. I don't even understand why that would pop up. But you know, same thing. I'll just, this one is a checklist for, I think that's on page SEO mostly. It's hard to see. Yeah, it's mostly on page SEO stuff. So throw that in there again. And you know, we've now seen on page SEO pop up twice in relation to social media. I personally don't understand why that's happening because they're not really related. But clearly there's some kind of crossover happening within the algorithm. People that are searching for social media eventually search for on-page SEO or vice versa.
Hey, Jeffrey.
Yep.
What is on-page SEO?
On-page SEO, so SEO has just evolved over time because the internet changes. And on-page SEO was essentially what you could do in the beginning to optimize your websites in a way that made them easier to be found by Google. Now, on-page SEO just isn't that important anymore because Google's algorithm has gotten so smart that you could have the worst optimized page on the internet, and they're going to be able to determine what that page is about just based off the traffic that it receives and the links it receives and things like that. So on-page SEO is just kind of an outdated SEO tactic, SEO term, really. There are some forms of on-page SEO that are important, but it's, at the end of the day, it's really quite simple. If you want to rank for a certain keyword, that keyword needs to be in the title of the page, and that should just be common sense to anybody, right? If you scroll over the tab of a website, it's going to tell you what the title of that page is. The title of our homepage is Seattle SEO Company, Seattle Web Search, SEO, that means business. If I want to rank for social media and it's not in the title of my web page, well, you're making it really hard on Google to figure that out, right? So that's really the only on-page SEO you need to know. And to do that, you do it through Yoast SEO. Okay. So Yoast SEO, I think I went over just a tiny amount in our last call, but when you go to edit a page in WordPress, there's a section on the back end, on the editing, Yoast SEO here. And this is what this plugin is trying to do. It's trying to train your brain to think like a search engine. You can't Google 10 different things at once, right? You can only Google one thing at a time. So to optimize a web page, you got to figure out what's that most important keyword. Once you figured out what that most important keyword is, that needs to go in the title in the exact same order. And the farther the keyword is to the left, the more valuable it's considered. But that's not something I would overthink too much. The reason why is if I were to switch the order of this and put Seattle SEO Company on the other side, and just write some gobbledygook in here, that gets cut off, right? Because there's a character limit to how many keywords you can put in the title. Now, Google still reads the keywords that falls off the end of the page, but because it's falling off the end of the page, and it's not visible to the human, Google weights it slightly more lowly. So the closer your focus keyword is to the front, to the left-hand side, the better theoretically, but I wouldn't make a title read ugly just to do that. As long as you have your focus keyword and it's in there before the cutoff point, it's the only thing that really matters. Okay. Beyond that, on-page SEO is just such a minimal ranking factor these days, because if you're getting 10,000 people from your Facebook page to your website, Google doesn't care what your title is. It can determine what the page is about just based off of the 10,000 people that are coming in. So on-page SEO is really just like the oldest SEO tactic you can possibly employ, and it can be overridden by almost anything else you do. That putting alt tags on images is something people talk about all the time, and it blows my, I still don't. I have to tell people that alt tags, they don't matter. The only reason they'd matter is if you're like a photographer and you have a website with no text on it. Then you got to alt tag your images, because Google doesn't have enough text on the website to kind of figure out what the website is about. And if you're not getting traffic to the website, you got to do something for them to make it, give them some kind of starting point. But alt tags, for the most part, are used when a blind person visits a website. There's tools that allow them to, they click a button and it tells them verbally what the page is about, and that's when alt tags get used. So it's really for, blind people more than anything. It's the most minimal ranking factor imaginable, but people get hung up on it all the time. I think it's because it's busy work. It's something that's easy to understand, but and they're like, oh, if I just fix 20 alt tags and they understand how to do that, I'll get traffic to my website. Not the case. It's like, it's not that important. So unless you're doing something wrong, like if your focus keyword isn't in the title, that's a glaringly wrong issue. So yeah, on-page SEO for the most part, unless you're like losing traffic to your website, unless you've switched over from an HTML website to a WordPress website and you suddenly lost all your traffic, it's not normally the definitive factor as to why you're losing things.
Okay.
So whenever you make a new board, also they pop up here. I usually will save the first 8 things that come up on here. It's almost always a good indicator that these are popular. And now I don't have an empty board, right? So the idea with Tailwind, that's the general idea with Tailwind, is to quickly aggregate huge amounts of other people's content, which into your account, and essentially you're piggybacking on the top content of the internet. The second piece to that strategy is that now you want to get SEO to your own website, right? Because what you've done at this point is you've built the visibility of the account by piggybacking on other people's content, but you're not getting any of that back to your website until you put links to your website into your account. So that's where the second function of Tailwind comes in, which is the smart loops. Smart loops are essentially, just content that you flag as important. Oh, gosh, the internet is acting up on me again. You flag content that you think is important, and then Tailwind is going to constantly try to repost that content. So obviously, it makes a lot of sense to put your content into this piece of the system. So now you're just, I've got 6,400 pieces of content from the internet that are going to get me traffic, at least within the Pinterest, platform. And then in between, I'm peppering my content in so that it can piggyback on that SEO that you're building. And it can get more complicated from there, but that's essentially all you need to know. Constantly aggregate the top content from the internet into these boards and then pepper your content in between, and you're going to ride the wave, essentially. So smart loops will have to, there we go. So yeah, I have categories for YouTube videos, my YouTube videos, YouTube SEO tips, nonprofit SEO, which I probably should pause because I haven't done that in a long time, and Pinterest SEO. So these we can definitely expand on. I think we'll revisit the smart loops at a later date once we've kind of gotten through the making any moto piece. Once we're very comfortable with our creative, the visual pieces, we'll come back and we'll update the smart loops. So for right now, just get familiar with Tailwind. Create, so if you got 10 hours a week to work on this stuff and you're spending, 2 hours a week on the meetings, maybe another hour on HR, Basecamp. I don't know how much time you guys are spending there. You got 7 hours remaining. Split it between Animoto and Tailwind. So, and then kind of keep track of which boards you're creating and or which boards you're posting to and how many pins you're doing. It'll help us to just kind of make sure that we're improving and kind of coordinate what we're doing, right? So that we're not all targeting the same boards over and over and over again. In the beginning, let's just try to keep it simple. Hit whichever boards you want to, just get familiar with the system. Just kind of keep track of what you've done so that in our next meeting together, we can kind of be like, okay, I posted these ones, Emily posted these ones, Johanna posted these ones, and let's kind of build a strategy around it. Because I think the hardest piece that you guys are going to have to pick up in this internship in general is going to be the Ahrefs side of things, which is essentially the creating of keyword strategies. And I think that's learning that I don't want you guys kind of doing yourself. We'll be doing that a lot in the meetings. I think every single week I'll be spending at least a third or a half of the time on Ahrefs if I can fit that in. Do you guys have any questions about Ahrefs last week? Because I think I ran out of time to really ask you about that. Have you guys been able to go in there at all?
No,
I know I didn't ask you to.
I was really overwhelmed.
Yeah, that's definitely the overwhelming piece. So let's just kind of table that a little bit.
And that's why I was excited to go back and watch the video and like hear it again and press pause and that kind of thing. So yeah, I don't know how Joanna feels about that, but it was pretty new to me.
Okay, so I actually know one of the recordings that's from the blog team training that's almost exclusively about Ahrefs. So I'll send the link to you guys for that specific video within the playlist. And
cool.
The problem is it's an hour long. So I think really for Ahrefs, I wouldn't spend a lot of time on it in the beginning until I've had a chance to talk about it in our meetings together, because I can bring you up to speed much faster than the recordings can.
Okay.
The recordings make sense to me because I do it, many hours every single day.
Yeah.
And you'll see that's one of the main issues with these recordings is I move sometimes a little bit too quickly through things. So that's why if any feedback from you guys and be like, that didn't make sense, or you have questions about anything, please let me know, because that tells me that we need to slow it down and, I can spend a little bit more time on any one thing.
Okay.
With Ahrefs, the one thing I would recommend you guys start to practice is link clump. So same with Tailwind. Anytime you have a piece of technology that can just help you to make a decision faster, I think that's where technology is most useful, right? If you Google something, so let's just say, WordPress SEO services, do you realistically have time to open up all 10 links? Not really, right? If you started doing that for every search, you'll never get anything done. So that's why this installing link clump and getting those options set up, which I put in the Skype chat, allows you to draw that box around the results for any given search. Go to batch analysis, and now I can tell which of the first page of Google, which articles get the most traffic. And now instead of having to read 10 articles, right, I can just see Neil Patel, 2,500 people a month. Look how much better that is than the rest of these. That's not the first result. You see how that's the 9th result. A lot of people make that mistake with Google searches. They're like, oh, the first 3 results are the best pieces of traffic, or 3 best pieces of content for that given search. For that one keyword, this article clearly ranks much higher overall for all the keywords that it's trying to target. This might be the #1 result for that one keyword, but this one performs much better overall. So that's the one thing in Ahrefs that I do this pretty much every time I do a Google search. I will check this and I'll batch analysis it.
It's weird that you say keyword, but there are like 3 words there. That always throws me off.
So when people say keyword, what they mean is keywords is one word, keyword phrase, exactly. And I just skip over the phrase part because
that's good. Okay. You know what, before I forget, I still don't have that email that you said you sent with the password. I was just trying to get into WordPress.
Okay, let me just give it to you in chat.
Okay.
So let's see, what time are we at? 12:30, so we're 10 minutes left. Let's just leave it there for Pinterest. I'll need more time to kind of get into the next main pieces that I wanted to talk about. Think about this. You guys aren't done with your Animoto videos, so let's see. Oh, what I forgot was co-schedule. So still, you know, try to make 2 or 3 co-schedule posts. That shouldn't take you too long. It should take you less than an hour. You know, just get familiar with it. It should be pretty intuitive. Let's have one Animoto video to review for the next meeting. I'd like to just, you know, each time we'll have one video and we'll kind of go over recommendations there until I don't see anything to recommend on. I'm actually not very picky about videos because you can always make a better video. That's the reason I like Animoto, is Animoto doesn't have unnecessarily flashy features that make videos hard to make. Again, I have promo.com, which is like Animoto 2.0. I have Render Forest, which is another, has very specific types of templates in there. But the difference is Animoto, you can crank out a video in 1 hour or less. Promo is going to be like two hours. Render Forest, 2 hours. And then you got Premiere Pro, 5 to 10 hours. And After Effects, which is like 10 to 200 hours for a video. So again, my only concern is usually the beginning of the video. Does it make sense? Does it get to the point as quickly as possible? Does it address what you're talking about? What are you trying to promote? What is, in our case, SEO services or some kind of online marketing service? And who are you talking to? Because that's one of the easiest ways to get your ads served to the right demographic, which just cuts down the competition and makes YouTube ads more effective. I would say for 90% of the videos you're going to run YouTube ads on, at the 20-second mark, you're going to have lost 50% of your audience. If you can do a really good first 15 seconds, the first 20 seconds, then what it'll be more like is at the 30-second mark, you'll be losing only 40% of your audience. And it can make a difference of about 10 to 20% of who you're reaching and whether who you're reaching is warm or not, and it just helps your retention rate, which is really the main consideration with YouTube. What YouTube cares about at the end of the day is how much of a video someone watched. And that's why shorter videos in a lot of cases are better. If you have a 1-minute video, you only have to get people up to about the 40, 45-second mark to get like an 80% retention. And anything above 80% is considered very, very good for YouTube. Whereas if you have a 5-minute video, you're going to have to reach the 4-minute mark, which, keeping someone watching a 4-minute ad that's a tough sell. So that's why, but the flip side of that too is that Google or YouTube prefers longer videos because they can serve more ads on it. So there's YouTube on average, they prefer 3 to 5 minute long videos. But those don't necessarily work well for YouTube ads. And since we're getting the majority of our results through YouTube ads, we're going to be trying to focus on really as short as possible. You want to keep it short and sweet. So yeah, let's kind of just recap. Well, the main thing I want everyone to do is get that Animoto video. If you run out of time on other things, table the other things. Let's just have at least one video to review at our next meeting. Number 2, try to get 2 to 3 co-schedule posts done, because I think the main skill that you learn there is how to take a piece of content and identify, out of an article that's 1,000 words, identifying what the most important pieces of the article are. How to skim an article, if we're talking about, and I'm not going to waste too much time on this because I think we need examples really to understand what I'm talking about here. But do the Animoto and co-schedule for sure by next week's meeting, because we'll need that for the next piece of training. And then if you have time remaining, poke around in Tailwind. But Pinterest and Tailwind, we're just it's kind of a secondary feature. After the first step is you want to automate as much as you possibly can in social media. Once you've automated things, you got little robots working for you 24/7 in the background. Right now, you got time on your hands to focus on things that have to be done manually. So Pinterest and Tailwind, are pretty automated, but they're much more time consuming, and they definitely fall into a secondary category after CoSchedule, because CoSchedule can hit Pinterest or can hit Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter, right? So you're hitting 3 platforms at once. Your target audience is always on Facebook, right? Everybody's on Facebook. Your target audience might not be on Pinterest. So Pinterest, I think, it's more valuable for certain people versus others. CoSchedule and making good videos is universal. Every single person on the internet that's working on a website would benefit hugely from just scheduling out your social media posts, getting that off your plate, automating that, and creating videos. Videos are single-handedly bang for your buck, the #1 thing you can do for online marketing. So yeah.
For the CoSchedule, are we just posting content that's already on the blog, or?
Yeah, use the blog post that I assigned to you guys in the Tuesday meeting.
Okay, yeah.
Just make 2 to 3 posts for that one.
Okay.
Yeah, and let me know when you're done with either the Animoto piece or this CoSchedule piece, because I'd like to take a look at them before our next meeting.
That's fine.
All right, then yeah, we're getting to the end of so I'll just call it there unless you guys have any questions for me. On my to-do list is I'm going to find that recording that talks about Ahrefs. Now, I don't think you guys need to watch that. What I'm going to try to do instead is find my favorite recordings from the social media playlist. That way, if you guys feel like getting ahead of these training meetings, you can. And also, again, it's all a matter of if you want to spend the extra time. There's just so much that I will not be able to train you guys on, if we're just sticking to the 10 hours a week, 6-month internship. So, and there's a little bit of everything in there. You might notice I move pretty quickly through all these things. So a big piece is just, if you're interested in something, I'm always willing to train more on it. So my process going forward is going to be getting good at making videos, because that's central to just how I practice SEO. #2, automating things, which is going to be an ongoing thing. I have like at least 3 or 4 automation strategies that I do for every client, and then probably 1 or 2 that it's more on a situational basis. And then #3 is going to really be Pinterest and YouTube ads, or not YouTube ads, Pinterest and Facebook ads, because those I do for at least 20 to 30% of my clients. If you're in a competitive industry, I almost always do those 2. Yeah, because again, going back to, if you have to get from position 80 on the internet or on a search engine to position 1, you don't see results until you get to position 20. And when you're in a competitive industry, you can, if you're in a non-competitive industry, you can go from 80 to 30 with 1 video. If you're in a competitive industry, you may get from 80 to 50 with 1 video, and then your second video 50 to 40, your third video 40 to 35. It's just the amount of work it takes to get to that threshold where you start getting results is much higher. And because of that, using social media to get early traffic into the website, which isn't, you're not restricted to having to beat that threshold. You can get results via ads, via what I just showed you with Tailwind. Social media can help to get the ball rolling much faster when you're in a competitive kind of situation. All right, so I'll call it there. Do you guys have any final questions for me?
No.
Okay.
Not at the moment, no.
Okay, well, Skype me if you do think of anything after the fact, and we'll talk again on Tuesday, if not sooner.
All right.
Thanks, Jeffrey. Have a good
Welcome.
weekend.
Thank you,
You too.
Jeffrey.
Bye, Joanna.
Bye, Emily.
Bye.
Bye, Jeffrey.